we begin a political revolution.
So AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, officially has a GOP challenge for 2020. Her name is Ruth Papazian, and she is currently a constituent of Congressional District 14 of the Bronx, which is where AOC represents. Obviously, the odds are stacked against Ruth Papazian. It's a deeply blue district, and AOC has plenty of popularity among Democrats, especially progressives. So it's not looking like she's going to end up beating AOC and toppling her at all, but still interesting news. Fox News had Ruth Papazian on to see what the breaking point was for her to enter the race and why she wants to take down AOC. So let's look at that, and then I'll break it down for you.
So one of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's constituents in the Bronx has had enough, and now she is leaving her old life behind to try to replace her in Congress. My next guest is Bronx Republican who has taken the necessary steps to get into the race against her in 2020. It was AOC's part in getting Amazon to back out of the new headquarters that may have broken the camel's back for her.
There was no guarantee that those jobs were for the New Yorkers that were here. We were looking at a deal that was not primarily putting the community first.
Here now exclusively tonight, Ruth Papazian, GOP hopeful for New York's 14th congressional district. So what ticked you off so much that you wanted to run against her?
Well, just looking at the Amazon situation, she parachuted into a congressional district she doesn't even represent and led the parade of grandstanding politicians to tank the deal. Now, instead of fighting to keep Amazon out of Queens, she should have been fighting to bring Amazon to the Bronx. Warehousing is one of our major industries here, and Amazon needs warehouses. She could have been fighting to bring warehousing jobs to the Bronx. And what about all those construction jobs that went bye-bye? It's not even the whole part of it. She wants to defund ICE. She wants to open the borders to all comers. As it is, unionized Americans have to compete with illegal aliens for construction jobs. So if we have unlimited immigration, what's going to happen to them? Now, how is this good for CD14?
Here's what she said in Congress about the Green Deal. I want to get your thoughts on this.
If you're a rich liberal from maybe New York or California, it sounds great because you can afford to retrofit your home or build a new home that has a zero emission.
You want to tell people that their concern and their desire for clean air and clean water is elitist? Tell that to the kids in the South Bronx, which are suffering from the highest rates of childhood asthma in the country.
What's your reaction?
My reaction is that the kids in the South Bronx need to have at least one working parent, and the Green New Deal is a jobs killer. Basically, a lot of the problems that kids have in the South Bronx, whether it's poor education, health issues, etc., a lot of that can be ameliorated with a higher level of income coming into the family and a higher standard of living that would result from that.
Yeah. Do you think that your message is going to resonate? Joe Crowley, who she beat, was there since 1999, Democratic district. I mean, do you have backing? You know, do you have any hope of winning, of giving her any competition?
Well, a lot of people don't understand CD14. The district is, there are moderate reporters, moderate voters in both parties in that district. And sure, there is a huge numerical advantage that the Democrats have, but we have low turnout elections. So a lot of those Democrats stay home. And what the district includes is some Reagan Democrats and then some secret Republicans who are registered as Democrats, but they vote Republican in the general elections. The votes that President Trump got in the Bronx were mostly in CD14.
We're going to follow your story, Ruth. Thank you very much. Good to see you tonight. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
That part at the very end was very awkward. The host was like, all right, yeah, Ruth, okay, wrap it up. We don't actually think that you're going to win in 2020. We just wanted somebody that was a conservative, that was a constituent of AOC's district, that hates everything AOC is doing and is disgruntled and wants to run against her. So that way we can make a big deal about all of the things that she's doing wrong and how disgruntled her constituents are. That's what their angle is on this. Their angle isn't, oh, you know what? Ruth Papazian is actually going to knock off AOC. in 2020. I mean, maybe that would be some wet dream for Fox News to actually have that happen, but they're not realistically thinking that's why they're having Ruth Papazian on the show. They're having Ruth Papazian on the show to say, you know what, here's a conservative constituent of AOC. She says her life hasn't gotten better because AOC moved in. She says her district is now in worse shape because of AOC and the decisions that she's making involving Amazon and things of that nature, where now she's saying that's the straw that broke the camel's back, and they're trying to represent that New Yorkers in her district are disgruntled, especially conservative constituents. So that's their whole angle of why they bring Ruth Papazian on and talk about her challenge to AOC, not actually because they think she's going to win. So at the end there, when she's talking about strategically how she could maybe give AOC a run in that congressional district because of how Trump did, they're like, yeah, all right. Yeah, he did better than in other congressional districts in New York. Okay, cool. Later, Ruth. We'll talk to you soon. But that's beside the point. I just thought that was pretty awkward and goofy how they ended up doing that at the very end there. But so she said the Amazon deal, Ruth Papazian said the Amazon deal was the straw that broke the camel's back for her and why she felt like she needed to get involved. But obviously, the Amazon deal, as we already know, is not good for working class people in New York, especially in Queens, because a lot of what the Amazon deal would do is exacerbate the problems for working class people and just give jobs to people that already have high wage jobs or already qualify for these high wage jobs. And then they're going to move them in and transplant them into New York. And then all of a sudden, rent's going to go up. Property prices are going to go up. People are going to be paying more money to live there. People that are working class, that are already struggling to get by, all of a sudden they're not going to be able to afford to live there anymore. And that's basically what's happening. So Amazon HQ2, these are just straight up facts of the situation. Traffic in New York City obviously is terrible as is. The commuter traffic's a disaster in New York City. Amazon HQ2 bring in all these people. So even if 1/5 of the people that they bring in for HQ2 are not New Yorkers, so they're actually moving into New York for the Amazon HQ2, that would be 10,000 new residents to the New York City area. So now all of a sudden you're bringing 10,000 new residents, and this is just the people that are working there. So now you also have their families, their wives, their children, maybe some extended family in certain circumstances. So you have all these people coming in. So now you have more kids in the public education system. You have more people on the roads commuting. You have more people in the subway systems. But all of those things are already hurting in New York City, and they need more investment. So then for you to say, you know what, we're going to give a $3 billion tax break. We're going to give $3 billion in tax breaks to Amazon for them to come to New York City. And we're going to build a helipad for the richest man in the world rather than invest in public education, rather than invest in infrastructure and improve our highways, improve our city roads, improve our subway system. All of those things you're making worse by bringing Amazon HQ2 in. And then, so not only are you screwing over the people that already live there that want improvements to that public infrastructure, but then you're also making it almost impossible for them to even live there. And if they can still afford to live there, they're going to be scraping by their bootstraps because they're already not in great shape. So you have all these working class people that already financially aren't in great shape, and they need better public infrastructure. They need higher wages. So what do? You bring in jobs where basically Amazon's going to bring in a bunch of transplants that make $100,000 a year, or bring in people that are looking to make $100,000 a year that have that skill set from other parts of the country. And all these transplants are going to come in and are going to be making six-figure salaries and living in the New York City area, mainly probably around the Amazon HQ2 in Queens, Bronx. Some I'm sure will live in Manhattan, obviously. But you're going to have all of them moving in, and now all of a sudden you're putting more burden on the public infrastructure that you're not reinvesting in, because you're giving all these tax breaks to Amazon and building a helipad for Jeff Bezos. So that is the problem with it. And not only that, but then these working class people that are counting on that public infrastructure to help them out, now all of a sudden you're saying, well, not only are we not going to invest in that public infrastructure that will help you out, and we're going to give the money to Amazon HQ2 instead, we're also going to now make it where you can't even afford to live here, because now rent is going to go through the roof in certain areas. Real estate prices are going to go through the roof in certain areas, and you're just no longer going to be able to afford to live here because we're just going to be gentrifying neighborhoods and having all of these people making six-figure salaries all of a sudden moving into working class neighborhoods and doing this whole gentrification deal again. And now you're going to basically get kicked out. But that's not why these constituents in New York, these working class constituents, vote for politicians to bring in six-figure salary transplants to kick them out of their homes and their neighborhoods. They vote for these politicians so that way they have better schools to send their children to. So that way they have better roads. So that way they have a better subway system for commuting to work. But they don't get any of those things with the Amazon HQ2. Instead, what they get is to see Jeff Bezos be able to fly in on a helicopter to his nice little helipad that was built by New York City. And they get to see people that moved to New York for the Amazon HQ2 take their homes or move in on our block and raise the rates up to the point where all of a sudden they can no longer live there. Even small businesses in that particular case, they're going to get priced out in certain circumstances. And then all of a sudden, these landlords that are looking for more money, the only ones that are going to be able to afford those rates are going to be more chain businesses. Now, all of a sudden, you're going to have all these chains move in and all these corporations move in and take over where the small businesses used to be. So you can see how this whole takeover, this whole corporate takeover of this area of Queens and this Amazon HQ2 deal is a bad deal, especially since it would be one thing if they were just moving in on their own free will, then that's understandable. You have free will as the corporation. If you want to move to a certain area and you have a lot that's zoned out and you can legally do so, then you can legally do so. But the fact that you're giving them so much in tax breaks and subsidies to move into New York City to make the life of the constituents that already live there worse and make it harder for these working class people of Queens and New York City to get by, it doesn't make any sense to do that. Most of Fox News views this the same way, that it would be great because you get to create jobs, even though a lot of those jobs are getting brought in. They're not just creating these jobs all for the people that actually live there. It's not like they're going to move into this working class neighborhood in Queens and be like, all right, you know what? A lot of these people now get the chance to apply for these six-figure salaries. We're going to hire all these people in these neighborhoods, and they're going to get to be able to renovate their homes and just live in better areas. They're going to have more of their tax money going to the government, where now they're going to be able to reinvest that and give them better public schools, better public roads, a better subway system. None of that. It's just, all right, we're going to have people that qualify. Some of them already work for us. Some of them that will relocate to be able to get a job here. And then they're going to move in all these areas. And like I said, it's only 1/5 would be 10,000 new residents. So if only 1/5 of these Amazon jobs that are being proposed for the HQ2, if only 1/5 of them were people that were transplants, that's 10,000 new residents in the New York City area. So that is a huge influx. And then that's putting weight on these institutions that are already stressed in New York City that people want improved. So you're giving subsidies to make these problems even worse. When these people are asking you, can you make these situations better for working class people? Can you make the roads better? Can you make the public schools better? Can you make the subway system better? And they're like, well, how about we don't do any of those things, but we'll use all the money and we'll give Amazon HQ2 all these tax breaks, and then we'll have a bunch of people that are transplants with six-figure salaries make it too expensive for you to live here anymore, and you can just move somewhere else with crumbling infrastructure. How's that sound? And then maybe eventually the infrastructure will improve here, but it will be well after you can no longer afford to live here. So what does that do for the actual constituents that are working class people that want their lives improved? So that is the whole problem with the HQ2. So Ruth Papazian's argument about the Amazon thing holds no water there. And don't get me wrong, there are a lot of people in New York State that feel that way about this whole Amazon thing, where they feel like AOC cost them a big opportunity to have this big technological hub in New York City and create all these jobs. But that's because of the framing. And a lot of people, if they really knew the truth of the situation and how badly it would affect a lot of working class people in the New York City area, they would realize, all right, maybe it's not as great as we thought. So working class people now have to pay more in rent. And if they can't afford to do it, if they're already barely getting by, then you have to move out. And then we're going to just have all these six-figure salary people that transplanted in for Amazon HQ2 come and take over. And it'll be their neighborhood, and and then they'll gentrify it. They'll kick all the working class people out and price them out of the area, and then they have to move to a different low income neighborhood or a different working class neighborhood that still has the same problems with public infrastructure and public education, and the cycle continues. So that's what's wrong with Ruth Papazian's argument on this whole Amazon deal. I know there's probably a lot of people in New York and a lot of people in general that agree with Ruth Papazian that they wanted Amazon in there, but obviously I'm against the whole Amazon deal for New York, and I think most people on the left are completely against that Amazon deal because they know the reality of the situation is it's not actually making lives better for working class people, and it's not making the infrastructure around these working class people any better either. So the other thing that she said about abolishing ICE, yeah, ICE is a terrible, terrible, terrible thing. ICE is just probably the most despicable part of our government right now. So I have no problem with AOC wanting to abolish ICE. I think that's something that is legitimate. ICE is a barbaric institution to have. They mistreat people all the time. They're going after people that they shouldn't be going after. There have been accusations of ICE literally committing, or what would the word technically be? Committing or using slavery in certain circumstances. So obviously the ICE thing, Ruth doesn't really have a point on that either. We should abolish ICE, and we should reform that entire department to make something that's actually humane. So on to the only other thing that she really said there was the open borders thing. I've never heard AOC say anything about open borders. I don't even think that's remotely true. That's just a typical Fox News conservative thing where you just smear them and say they want open borders just because they don't want a border wall, when obviously there's a lot of nuance in between a border wall and open borders. So that's also a wash. So Ruth Papazian basically made no good points at all. She basically just spouted the typical conservative talking points that anybody else would normally do on Fox News. It didn't have to be a constituent of AOC, but Fox News saw it as a chance to say, you know what, here's somebody that actually lives in a congressional district of her, and why they're so disgruntled about everything that's going on in their district, and why they're trying to knock her off. But outside of that, like I said at the beginning of the video, AOC is still very popular among Democrats. On the Republican side, only 2% approve of her. So, and only 23% don't know enough about her to make an opinion. So the difference is that places like Fox News have been propagandizing her and spewing all of these hit pieces about her and all of these lies about her, and just nonstop propaganda. And she's right with the nickname that they've been basically AOC TMZ. So they've been smearing her nonstop and giving her all this negative press. So Republicans actually know of her. So more Republicans know of her than Democrats know of her in terms of the ratio within the party. So you have 44% of Democrats don't know enough about her to make an opinion, and then 23% of Republicans don't know enough about her to make an opinion. So then on a side where they know, on a side that's against her and a side that doesn't like her, that she only has 2% favorability with, there's a lot more people that actually have an opinion on her because she's been force-fed down their throats by Fox News and other conservative outlets all the time now, compared to on the left. There are still more people that are unaware of what she's been doing and what her policy proposals are, and they don't know enough about her to make an opinion. But in the Democratic Party, where she needs all the votes, especially in a heavy blue district like CD 14 in the Bronx, she is favorable, and she's actually gone up in favorability over the past few months, according to the newest Quinnipiac poll. So she's still very favorable among Democrats. She's actually growing in popularity among Democrats. She's viewed extremely, extremely negatively on the Republican side of things. But in a heavy blue district like that, then that shouldn't be a problem at all. I don't see any way in which Ruth Papazian would actually make a push to knock AOC off. It's basically just Fox News trying to run somebody out there that's a disgruntled constituent that wants AOC out and has a conservative agenda. So, yeah, Ruth Papazian, I hope you enjoy your moment in the spotlight, because the next time you have it, you're probably just going to get crushed in 2020 by AOC, and I'll be looking forward to seeing that happen. Hey, everybody. So if you already are a subscriber to the show, then just know that I genuinely appreciate it. If you aren't already a subscriber to the show, then I would highly recommend going down below and hitting subscribe, hit the bell so that way you're notified every single time I put out a new video. And also go down to my Venmo link that will be in the description box. There is a link for you to make a one-time donation to the show. I'm fully running off of audience support at the moment, so I can't even tell you how much I appreciate that as well. I can't wait to be talking to everybody soon.